Hello, you guys. Anna, lead developer of PinBuilder here, and wow, do we have a big update for you right now. So excited to show you what we got going on. I think you guys are really going to love it. In fact, I know you are. So I'm just going to jump right into it. Let's take a look at what we got going on here. First of all, I wanted to show you, I did not show you this in the last video that I put up. If you want to delete a table, it's very simple. All you got to do is go to toggle hidden, and any games that you have hidden using the hide button, you can now delete with the delete button. And what that's going to do is it's going to delete the .save files, which includes the game.save file, the logic, and the cab files. So all of the artwork and sounds for the game will not be deleted, however. Those will still stay there because you might want to use those in other tables or whatever, or you might have already and you don't want to lose that artwork. So that's why we're not going to delete any of the art, just the tables. And that's how that works. Really super simple. So you can cancel out of that and go back to the main stuff here. And I am so excited to show you some of the other stuff now. So let's get to it. I'm going to just hide this one, and I'm going to start up with a blank one to show you from the very blankness. Let me turn this off. So when you fire up the game, you're going to see this screen when you go into a blank table. It's going to look just like this. We've added a new feature, the grid. Yay! So the grid is essentially centered between this side rail and this lane separator over here. If you change to the wide body, it will remain essentially centered. You can see that it's basically still centered right there. So this, though, I want you to know, is not necessarily the 0 point in the coordinate system inside our game. So let me show you what I mean by that. It's offset by 20 millimeters. By the way, each one of these tiny squares is 10 millimeters. So if we put this little post here and we set it to 0 down here, you can enter 0 and put a 0 there, and you see that the 0 point is right there. Well, there's a reason for this. If we were to offset the 0 and scooch it over 20 millimeters, all of our games and all of your games would be offset to the left 20 millimeters, and obviously we don't want that. So what we did was we just offset the grid, and you're just going to have to kind of deal with that, I guess, if you want this centered the way it is. If you place flippers, they will be centered, so they're centered on that center line because it's offset from due to this separator here. All pinball machines are obviously offset thanks to the separator there. Okay, so as you can see, you can use these this object location to enter exactly where you want it if you want to do that manually that way. However, whether the grid is on or off or not does not affect the snappability of objects to the playfield. So let me show you what I mean. First of all, I want to say that the 4 key on the keyboard toggles the grid on and off, and if your lighting or your playfield is dark, the grid will still show because it is designed to be sort of self-illuminating to a certain degree, so you should be able to see it on a dark art playfield. Now, if you want an object to snap, very simple. All you got to do is hold down the left shift key, and you'll see up here it says snap, and so it'll snap to every 10 millimeters. And if you want to change the distance that it snaps, you can do that. So if we go into the menu and settings, you can change this to, say, 5 and go back, and now it will snap half the distance, so it snaps every 5 millimeters. This is actually pretty good when you want to center things between other things. So let me show you what I mean by that. All right, so I'm going to get rid of that, and we're going to use a couple of these guys as an example. So let's say you set one of these here, and you put in another one, and you put it there. Let me straighten those. And then you want to put a switch in between. if you snapped it to the 10, it wouldn't be quite centered. So the 5 puts it right in between them. And you can set it up like that. So that's why 5 is kind of nice. That will give you that spread like that. Okay, but I'm going to go back to 10 because that's just a little bit easier way to see it. As if that's not exciting enough, we've added something that we've all wanted very desperately for quite some time, and that is grouping capability. If you look up here, you'll see it says group name now, right there, underneath the object name. So let's say I select, let's get rid of one of these guys, and let's say I want to call that's called top lane divider. If you want to change that name, you can call it whatever, divider. So now it's called divider. So anytime you click on that, you see it's called divider. And if you click on this object panel and go here, you see it's called divider. So if you want to change the rollover wire, you could say switch 1, whatever, and then when you go in here, it's now called switch 1. And of course, if you want to, you can select it by picking it in this object panel. Okay, so what about group name? Okay, so let's give this a different color, and we'll go blue, and we'll change these to a nice yellow. That's just lovely. Okay, so I've changed the color of this lane divider right here, and I'm going to snap it. And now, before we get into the group option, I do want to say that we've set it up so that you can duplicate nearly any object now. Some objects don't duplicate, but most do. So let's give this a group name. So we'll call it top dividers. So we're going to make a group of dividers. We're going to make a few of these because usually there's 4, 5, 6 of them up there on the top right. So I'm just going to call that group dividers. And well, I'm going to call this divider, and we're going to make it a part of the group called top dividers. Now, when I press Alt and D, it's going to duplicate that, and it duplicates everything about it. So it duplicates the colors and the names. So now you see it says top dividers. I'm going to just highlight that and copy that, and I'm going to go here and call this also part of the same group, and I'm going to duplicate that switch, and we'll put it over here. And now I'm going to duplicate this one again, and we'll put it there. So, whoops. We're just going to put all those there. Now you see we have 5 objects that are all part of the top dividers group. Now if I just use the left mouse button, I can move these independently. However, if I hold down the left control key, you'll see up here it says group. And that means I'm moving by group. So when I grab that whole entire group will now move. Yay! So you can still move things independently and group them and move them as a group if you want to or need to. And you can still snap. So we can still snap this whole group. And as long as everything is spaced where you want it, it will move that whole group spaced accordingly. So we can move that wherever we want, say right there. And let's say you do move that there, and you want to move this one up slightly, you can do that. And then when you hold down the group button, no matter which one of these you grab, it's going to snap to that object that you have held. So if I grab this one, it's going to snap to that one, etc. That's how grouping works. And you can group tons of objects. Let's put this post here. Let's say you want this post right there for some reason, and we want some inserts. Let's just scale this down. Now Shift is still used for symmetry on scaling. So Shift key has multiple uses depending on what you're doing. So keep that in mind. It doesn't always snap, but if you're scaling, it scales symmetrically. And let's give this a flash rate of 0.02, and if we turn it on, we'll see it flash. And let's give that a color of a nice dark green. And we're gonna move it Oops, I'm still in scale mode, so I don't want to do that. Let's go to move mode, and we're going to put that right there. Let's say we have that one there, and we go Alt-D, and then we move a copy over here. And now we've got two lights, and we can keep one selected, and we still have the name in there, top dividers. So we're going to put that there. We can change that name, but keep in mind that each one of these is changed individually. So if you want to change the name or set the name of a group, think in advance what you might want to call that group if there's more than just one object in the group. And also keep in mind that you can snap objects even with the grid off. So you can see that it's still snapping to the grid, but the grid is just off. All right, so let's call this top dividers. And now if I hold down the group button, which is the left control, this whole thing now moves as a group, snaps as a group, and can be, moved as a group. Then if you say, oh, I want this to be up here instead, and now group move, and see, it still moves as a group. That's grouping and group moving and duplication. So as I said before, most objects can be duplicated and all objects can be grouped. So even this one, if we put one of these guys in here and we add him to the same group, and we'll snap him to right there, and now that whole group moves as a unit. Or if you decide that, oh, you want to just move this one separately, you can still do that. And so you can add all kinds of things. In fact, you could pretty much group almost all the objects as the same group if you wanted to, which makes literally no sense whatsoever, but it is possible. So see, you can move that whole thing as a group. It could be confusing though, because if you group all these things together, oops, I wanted an S on there. Let's just call these flippers group. And now we have this top dividers group, and we have this flippers group. And you can have as many groups as you want, as many objects as you want grouped. So speaking of objects and grouping, another big change that we've added is we've redesigned the way grouping and snapping of drop targets works. So let me show you that real fast. So if we put a drop target in here, you can see that it does not have the little indicator icon on top of it anymore. So I'm going to snap it to there. And you see that there's no group name here. So I'm going to call this one drop target bank 1. And I'm going to give it a nice bright red color. And I'm going to give it the horseshoe there. Keep in mind that if you want to change these and put custom art in there, all you got to do is drop it in the user images folders somewhere in there. You can set up your own targets folder. You can use the default targets folder, or you can set up your own folders. It doesn't even matter. So here's one for Alien Meadow, is just this little flower design, and we also have this kaiju battle little dude. He's kind of cool. So now you can move these, you can snap these. And if you want to group these, it's very simple now. Instead of snapping them to each other, they just snap to the grid. They no longer will snap to each other to create a group of drop targets. So the best way to do it is to create the first one that you want, and then do Alt-D, and you'll get a new one. And looks like it looks like we're not duplicating the art. So we'll fix that tonight before we post the update. Let's just go ahead and change that to that. Well, let's just change them all back to stars. That way it won't be so confusing. And I'm going to jump back in here and change this back to 5. And now they'll snap fairly nicely together. And I'll just duplicate this one again and again. And if you're wondering if you can duplicate groups, not yet, but perhaps we will add that option. So now you see this whole bank says it's all DT Bank 1. So if you click on any of these, also you might notice that when you click on an object, it might shift slightly like this. You can go into rotate or scale mode and it won't do that. It won't move at all. Just, you know, just FYI. We may add a new option that is just a selection icon up here so that objects don't move when you grab them. But you can shift over to one of these others and that won't happen. But with snap, if you snap to the grid, it sort of doesn't matter. Because if we're in move mode and I hold the snap and I click on any of these, they're not gonna move like that. They'll stay where they're snapped to. All right, so now if I do group move, I can grab this whole thing as a unit. I can grab any one of these and the whole thing will move as a group. And now if you go into play mode, let's see, I'm gonna just slap some stuff together here real fast. And let's see. I'll put this up here. I'm going to set this up quickly so that I can use this as an easy demonstration to show how drop targets work real fast, because I think a lot of people have been confused by the way they work, and that is totally understandable. All right, so I'm going to grab a ball spawner, and you're going to notice that there is a strange line coming off that ball spawner. That's only going to show when you have the spawner selected, and that is to show you exactly where that is aiming. So you can get an idea of exactly where you're firing the ball when it fires. So I'm going to shoot the ball straight at the center of the two posts here, because I want to use this as a method to just knock these down very quickly. I'm going to give it a 22 velocity and save this as demo. And let's go test this out and I'll show you what I'm after here. Okay, so I'm going to start a game. And now when I shoot balls up there, I should be able to... Nope, that's not going to work. All right. I will need to adjust these a little bit. So holding down Alt, get these to come up slightly. And let's just throw down a couple of these guys and we'll put them right here. I'm trying to be able to knock the targets down quickly and for demonstration purposes. Start a game. Fire some balls up here. There we go. Okay, so you see the whole bank is going to just go down and nothing's going to happen. They're just going to drop. That's how the targets would act in reality if you just put targets in there and didn't hook them up at all. So let me show you quickly how easy it is to hook them up. It's super duper easy. And we're going to go the 3-key logic mode. We're going to click this to add a new logic controller, and we're going to call this DT Bank 1. And I can snap that too. That will also snap. And I forgot I was on 5 snap. Let me go back and go back to 10. We might move this snap interval to here somewhere to make it quicker and easier. If you'd like that idea, let us know in the comments below. But for now, that's just going to be in the front in the menu. So in order to connect these up and make them function logically, all you need is one logic controller. You want to select that to the drop target bank type, points only, and you can set up effects if you want. And the way that will work in a drop target sense currently is if you set up a point fountain effect, the last one that drops is the one that's going to get the point fountain. And we want this to reset on completion, and we'll give each one of those 100, and then we'll give the full bank 1,000 for completion. Our target sound will be that one, and our completion sound will be That one. All right, and now to hook these guys up, you hold down the shift key, and it will say snap, but that's fine. And then you left click on these, and you see they're added to that logic controller. So basically that means that this logic controller is going to check this bank of drop targets. Now, what you want to do is for each one of these, you want to go in and select them. I'm not holding the shift key down. I'm just clicking on one of them, and I want to set its controller to DT Bank 1. So when it drops, it's going to fire off a signal to this controller, which you can now see with that red arrow there. So the red arrow means that that switch is going to fire this logic controller, and then the logic controller is going to check any of the drop targets that it has set up in its grouping. So you want to go through each one of these and set that so that every one of these guys will fire that controller to check if the whole bank is down. And when you're done, it should look like this. So you'll have all of these arrows just like so. And now if I save that and we go back to play mode, you'll see that when we start a game and we fire one, we hear the first sound, and then the whole bank drops. And we should have 1,500, 1,600. Is that right? Oh, one of them must have got knocked back down. Come on, hit it. Anyways, you get the idea. All right, so that's how that's going to work, at least for right now. There are little things that we're going to improve on that to make it function better. And, you know, there's always room for improvement, obviously. But one of the cool things about this is that, and I'm just gonna move these out slightly. Oh, yeah, let's do this. So I want to show you how easy it is now to change your targets. Let's just go ahead. First of all, I'm going to move this guy over here. Going to rotate him. Let's rotate these to match these guys, and we'll just put this one here, and we'll put this one here. We'll just put these up here. I'm not trying to make this perfect. Just trying to show you options that you can do. Now that you've created the bank and it's all set up and functioning. So this is just a ridiculous setup here, but just for display purposes. So if we go into logic mode and select that guy, you'll see we're still connected. Now if you want to add another target and you duplicate one of these, we can still go like this and we have another duplicate there. But if you go into logic mode, you're going to see that the duplicated one, this duplicated one is not going to be hooked up at all logically there. So just keep that in mind. When you duplicate one, it's not going to be set up. It'll still be part of the DT bank, and you could still move these all as a group, but logically it's not yet connected. So we'll look into that too, as far as duplicating one that's connected to logic. That would be very helpful. I know that for sure. So just keep in mind that little things like that we're going to improve along the way. We should be knocking this stuff out within the next few weeks here. But let's take a look at that, and you'll see that this still works the same way. So starting a game. Oops, I think I did that prematurely. And you see that that whole bank pops up the way it's supposed to. Come on. So that's how drop targets work now. No more snapping to them and all that weird stuff. This makes much more sense to us. We hope it makes more sense to you. And that is something that we've changed. Of course, these guys, and let's just give this like a really high velocity. Okay, so another problem that we found, and I don't know if you guys saw this or not, but when placing these drop targets, what is going on? Oh, I'm in rotate mode. So when placing these targets, we were having a problem where when you would move them, the target itself wasn't moving. And there was a reason those weren't moving correctly, and that's because these are actually physics objects. So let me show you what I mean. So if we just leave that like that and go over here, some of the objects in the game are physics objects and they will move. So you'll see that when I fire a ball at that. See how it moves like that? Now that's firing very hard at that target. But those targets do move in real life, and they do move like that in the game. So just a long explanation for why that wasn't moving right before, if you noticed that. So let's just move this guy right there for now. Okay, so another thing we did, let me go back to here. Oh, shoot. No, I didn't. I should have saved it. So you'll see that we can fire one ball at a time now. If you just tap the B key, or if you hold it down, it will fire like automatic fire mode. So we've placed a 1/10 of a second delay in the firing of the balls, because that way you can just shoot one out if you want to. Now, if you control that with a logic controller, it will only fire one ball at a time for every logic controller pulse that it gets. We made some changes to the UI layout, which you wouldn't notice too much in this screen here, but if you go into the control screen, it's set up a little bit differently. Play mode is now in this panel, and edit mode in this panel. And then we have, obviously, play mode is separated into keyboard and controller. You can change the toggle grid number or key if you want to. So you can set that to whatever you want. You could put that as G or whatever. You know, G actually makes sense for grid. So if I change that to G, I click it, I press G, and I go back here, and when I press G, now that's set to save G as the toggle grid option. And maybe I don't want that. I like 5, whatever. You know, set it as you want it. So that's a change that we've made. We have also fixed the sort order of inserts, and we've changed the sort order of inserts and decals. So if we put a decal in here, and I'll set that to 10 because it's just simple. You can see how it's overlaying on top of that that guy right there. Let me turn this off. Oops. So you can see how it's lying over that. If you press the V key, it will toggle visibility of the grabbers on and off, which kind of helps for visibility. But now, if we select this guy and turn those off, we can set this layer order. So the default layer order for these, which I can't grab now, but inserts are set at a 5 in the layer order. That way you can place decals, even if it's 4.999, it's not going to be above the inserts, but if it's, say, 5.1 or 5, just 5, it's going to be above this guy right here. So that's how that works anyway. So that was another fix that we made. We also added another option. Let's get this out of our way. We'll just save that. We've added something that was pestering us, and we never did fix. But but we did fix in this update. So if you shoot a bunch of balls onto the playfield and then press the start button, the balls that are stuck on the playfield like that, like these ones over here in the trough, they would not disappear when you started your game and it would cause issues. But now, let me just get a bunch of these on there. When you start a game, all the balls on the playfield will be removed, and then the game will start normally. And then you can play. All right, so that was something we did. Okay, and so that's about it for this update. We have a number of things that we have in the pipeline, and one of those is really important. Obviously, we've been neglecting this feature for quite some time, and we plan to do this very soon. As you can see here, we've got shoot again, tilt, game over, and 1 to 4 can play. Well, those need to be controllable via logic also. So we plan to control those via logic, and we'd like to get some lighting behind this so that you can have lights that are controllable, and the credits and ball and play, illumination, high score, all that stuff. We are working on that currently. It's a little bit more challenging because this is set up differently, but that's a little bit more challenging to set up just for a number of reasons. It's lighting based mainly is the reason that's a little bit more challenging. So anyways, you guys, we hope that you enjoy this update, and we hope that it helps you to create the pinball machines of your dreams. And if there's any questions or anything, just hit us up on the Steam discussions or on Facebook. We have a lot of discussion going on there as well. But you can also email us at pinbuildergame@gmail.com if you want to. And until the next time, we hope you guys have a wonderful holiday and build some pinball machines. And if anybody is interested in putting PinBuilder in a physical cabinet, please hit us up and let us know. We are currently looking for someone who builds pinball cabinets for virtual pinball that would be interested in a copy of the game so that they can run it in their virtual cabinet. So if you or anyone you know does that, please let us know. And until then, happy holidays and best of wishes and a happy new year if we don't talk to you before then.